Whenever dealing with the subject of the Islamic State, Islam, or Muslims, it's necessary to differentiate between Muslims and Islam. Muslims are the people who adhere to Islam, be it in name or in the actual practice of the religion. Islam itself is a religion, and we have to differentiate between the two. See, anyone familiar with most Muslims knows that they often embody a genuine sincerity, a goodness about them. And the vast majority of Muslims are gracious people. They're good, kind people who desire so much to please their God. They're completely unlike what we usually witness in the media. In fact, most of the Muslim world has cringed at the actions of ISIS. And by popular consensus, we can assume that, in the very least, most Muslims may denounce ISIS. And I know it's complicated, but in our search, if we can find enough evidence within the Islamic doctrine and orthodoxy, we can then confidently and without a doubt conclude that the problem with radical Islam is not with the Muslims. It's not with my family or your friends. It's with the teachings of the religion itself. And it's also super important, so keep this in mind. You have to be classy about this. Because don't be a doofus and assume that all Muslims are terrorists and that ISIS is just representative of them all. They're not. That's ignorance and it's stereotyping and it's just not cool. And you and me, we're way too classy for that, right? So for this reason, these next three questions will help us, and they must be addressed to find out the truth and get to the bottom of it. So here's question number one. Does ISIS consider itself religious? Meaning, is there a connection between the terror organization and its adopted religion? Now, this answer alone it's not enough to conclude whether Islam is in fact being hijacked because of ISIS, or whether ISIS is in fact founded upon Islamic principles. So this leads you and me to question number two, and that's this. Does ISIS consciously and intentionally relate its behavior to its religion, Islam? And finally, number three, does ISIS have Islamic precedents to justify their horrible actions? It's really simple. At the end of the day, we just need to find out, does Islamic theology, based on Islamic sources, encourage or discourage ISIS's behavior? Remember, what are the only credible proofs that we can glean from to answer this within the context of Sunni Islam? Of course you know, because you're too smart and you watch the other videos. Only the Quran and the authentic sayings, the hadith of Muhammad and his biography, only those three things qualify as credible proofs. Why? Because you wouldn't go to a baker to have a heart surgery, right? Likewise, you go only to Islam for all things Islamic. So credible Islamic sources must be presented. Basically, Muslims follow the Quran and the exact actions of their Prophet and his life. It's known as the Sunnah. So why in the world would we quote or actually listen to Bill Maher, Ben Affleck, or President Obama when it comes to Islam? In these videos, we're not going to go to the celebrities, the politicians, or the mainstream media. We're going to go straight to the source. We're going to go to Muhammad and his Quran. So here's some background information that you should know to start this journey. Muhammad was the founder of Islam. He was born in Mecca around 570 AD. And he said that he had visitations from the angel Gabriel around 610. And Gabriel allegedly gave Muhammad passages of the Quran from the unchanging preserved tablets in heaven. Now, during the early years of his calling as a messenger, Muhammad preached his new religion, monotheistic. It was an alternative to the idol worship in Arabia. And idolatry was so prominent in Arabia, Muhammad was met with great resistance, so much so that he had to flee north to Medina. His message was soon embraced, and he actually gained a large following. With this band of followers, Muhammad returned to and conquered Mecca along with much of Arabia. This is actually the beginning of what we know as the Islamic Empire or the Islamic Caliphate. So now fast forward from 600 AD to modern day, 1400 years later. Today there are 1.5 billion Muslims in the world who consider Muhammad the seal of the prophets, the final and most successful one. He died in 632, and within 100 years of his death, Islam had spread throughout the whole Middle East and even beyond. Today, Muhammad is buried in Medina. So, because you're interested, and I want you to know, we are on this journey to find out once and for all whether the Islamic State has hijacked Islam and they've tainted the religion of Islam, or whether in fact they are really following Islam correctly. I know it's on your mind because this issue is not going away anytime soon. So stay tuned for the next video, and don't forget to share this one and join the conversation online with the hashtag on your screen.